Hello, welcome back. I'm Charles Showalter. You're listening to the Union Edge Laborers Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you hanging out with us for the afternoon, that's for sure. Folks, just want to remind you, go to our website, www.theunionedge.com, and sign up for our e-activist newsletter. If your organization needs some help, we'll get the word out for you. If you're willing to help, we'll get the word to you. It's called Solidarity. We're all in this together, and we're all working hard to improve our communities. And joining me right now on the phone, we've got Admiral Joe Sestak. Joe, welcome back to the program.
Good to be with you, Charles. Thank you.
Joe, it's always a pleasure. We appreciate it. You are, in fact, running for Senate here in the state of Pennsylvania. Just want to let you know that we did talk to John Fetterman, had him on earlier today. And, of course, Mr. Toomey, if you want to come on, we'd be happy to talk with you and, of course, anybody else. But, Joe, what are you seeing? What's going on?
Well, what I'm still very concerned about is over half of Pennsylvanians, half of Americans, working families, are actually earning in income today approximately $1,500 less than they did in 1999. Imagine that.
It's incredible.
And that even includes the additional partner, your wife or your husband wasn't working before. Maybe about 20% more have both of them working now where they didn't back in 1999. So people are running to try just to stay in place and slipping a little behind. But is there opportunity? You bet there is. Look, I believe manufacturing is about to come back to America. It's cost almost as much to produce something in China today as it does here in America when you can include the high cost of shipping today, of getting it back. I know people have moved factories back, but we got to do two things. We got to get the small businesses to create more jobs. They're only doing about half as much as they did back about 40 or 50 years ago. And we need to give them access to capital. And second of all, we got to make sure our working capital, that is labor, working families, have the skills, the training that is needed to take on these manufacturing jobs. Both of those are critical.
Yeah, they are absolutely critical, and we need to do everything we can to try and bring manufacturing back to the United States. And I got to say this, despite the rhetoric that's out there, nobody is more cost efficient. Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better, faster, and cheaper than we do. When you consider, if you want a quality product, you get it done here in the United States.
Without a question. Look, if somebody really has a choice between a product that is the same cost and it says made in China or made in America, there's not a question that people are going to want made in America because there are quality standards here. If you've ever gone into watching any union about how they train to be a sheet metal worker or whether it's to how to be a laborer in the laborers union, their training is truly safe, efficient, and quality. Second, we have standards about even our poultry. And in China, you lack those type of standards. So if you're importing something like we've read in the paper, you're taking a risk because the standards of quality, environmental, all the way down to the types of environmental stuff that can be there, quality of food, you're really taking a risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe, I mean, how many times have we heard about people's pets dying because there was melamine in pet food that was being brought in from China to the United States? And this is not the only thing. I mean, my God, kids in Japan were dying because of the same thing with baby formula. I mean, and what do? I mean, who do you go after? And when you go after them, how do you know that anything's going to be done? Or more importantly, how do you know it's stopping? Because we've seen it time and time again. How many people died because of bad tires that were made in China and shipped here?
This is an extremely important point because you take someone like our President Senator Pat Toomey, who has voted 3 times to close down government, twice to close down government. He has actually 3 times voted to shut down, let's say, the inspection agency that the Food and Drug Administration that and others that have to do with inspecting and making sure that things are safe. When you have someone who actually believes government is unnecessary, you have some real problems. And that's one important point. Look, government, I don't want a government that interferes with my personal freedoms. But I want a government that can advance my liberty, advance my protection of my freedoms by making sure that they are able to have the manpower, the woman power in order to inspect products that are coming in from China and other places to keep our children safe. And that's why the harm that is being done to just denigrating government time and again by Pat Toomey and others goes way too far. To close down government twice and to see whether he's going to do it again here with this impending government shutdown, I think is inexcusable.
I agree, Admiral. I agree. And unfortunately, those that he's supporting think it's perfectly okay. And, you know, I don't know of anybody in the state of Pennsylvania that thinks this is okay. Pat Toomey.
I've walked 422 miles, as you know, across the state. And I can remember doing an event outside the Sinkhole Saloon on that walk. A saloon set up near a sinkhole. It, goes down about once every few years. That the guy set up a sinkhole saloon because our infrastructure for our transportation ranks us next to bottom of all 50 states in terms of the quality of our transportation system. 1/3 of our bridges are low quality bridges and are structurally deficient. Well, when U.S. Senator Toomey, therefore, saying to a Tea Party after he led the filibuster on the transportation bill, we did something constructive today. I told you we'd kill the transportation bill, and we did. You begin to step back and say, what great harm he's doing to our small businesses that need to get their products at marginal cost in the most rapid and secure way to market. And so That's why I think there has to be accountability for government, but you just don't brag about shutting it down.
Admiral, let me get you to put your military hat back on for a second. There was a reason why we built the interstate highway system. And today, with the degraded manner in which our roads and our locks and our bridges are, just how much of an impact does it have on our national defense?
It is not small, not at all, because we already know here in Pennsylvania when large 18-wheelers have to go over certain roads, certain bridges in particular, they're getting denied a certain percentage of time because the weight is too much. And we have war plans to handle two major regional contingencies nearly simultaneously, which means large products of weaponry have to go back and forth across the United States. And so even that impacts us. But I could even extend that to our seaports. We only have about 4 superports, those that have the depth of water and the sophisticated infrastructure to handle the most advanced container ships as rapidly as possible. China has over 12, and we've only had 4 for a few decades. We've never increased it. And so if you really do have to get to a rapidly evolving war, large material out there in containers, we are even stymied in that.
Right.
But, we really want to do it because of the commercial world. We want to be the center of the maritime flow of the world, not China.
Right, absolutely. And, these are all important things. And Admiral, with you being a Navy guy, the LSTs that we built here in the Pittsburgh area, we shipped them on down the Ohio River, down the Mississippi, down the Gulf. And, we've got such problems with our locks and dams. I'm not sure that we could keep up with the demand that we would need to, do that. But that's another story.
No, but it's a very extraordinarily important story for where you live, right out there in the Allegheny area.
Right.
Because those locks, if you watch how long it takes them to fill up, fill down, and all, that's time wasted. And so that's why all this is so very important. And understand this, 99% of the volume of all trade is at sea somewhere on water as you and I are speaking. 99% of all volume. And so that's why when we talk about infrastructure, whether it's inland waterways or it's making sure our ports are able to have material come fast and exit fast, it really has to do with cost of business going down.
Absolutely. Admiral, listen, we are coming to the end of it. How do we find out more about you and your campaign?
Website, joe@joesestak.com. It's joe@Joe Sestak. And let me give it once more, joe@Joe Sestak. And I'd be very grateful if people happen to go on. JoeSestak.com is another way to get on. SESTAK.
Absolutely, Admiral, and we appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Charles. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too, sir. I'm Charles Showalter. You're listening to the Union Edge Laborers Talk Radio.